BRICS Summit in Rio, Sunday, 6th of July, 2025. Major developments, global impact. The 17th BRICS Summit opened in Rio de Janeiro amid rising geopolitical tensions and growing ambitions by the bloc to reshape global governance. Leaders from the expanded 11-member alliance, representing nearly half of humanity and over 40% of the world's GDP, gathered to issue a powerful joint call for a more inclusive, multipolar world order. Jealous that he was not invited to Rio, egocentric U.S. President Donald Trump, in a vain attempt at attention-seeking behavior, pledged to impose a 10% tariff on nations aligning with BRICS. His statement, made just hours before the summit opened, was widely condemned by BRICS leaders as unilateral and regressive. Global markets dipped in early July trading sessions, with U.S. futures sliding and the dollar briefly strengthening. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva opened the summit by urging fellow leaders to rewrite the rules of global governance. Lula stressed the bloc's growing importance as a modern successor to the non-aligned movement and criticized NATO's militarization of global politics. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi echoed the call to reform institutions like the UN Security Council, the IMF, and WTO to better represent the global South. The summit saw the participation of 11 full BRICS members: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the newly added Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and United Arab Emirates. Notably, Chinese President Xi Jinping was absent from the summit, citing unspecified internal matters. Russian President Vladimir Putin attended virtually due to the ICC warrant for his arrest. A key outcome of the summit was the adoption of a 126-point Rio Joint Declaration, which addressed reform of global financial and governance institutions, regulation of artificial intelligence, enhanced climate finance from developed countries, pandemic preparedness and equitable vaccine access, counterterrorism and regional stability, support for multilateralism and international law. The summit was marked by a strong focus on Middle East instability. BRICS leaders issued a joint condemnation of recent military strikes on Iran and urged de-escalation in the Persian Gulf. They also expressed grave concern over Israel's military actions in Gaza, calling for humanitarian corridors and renewed efforts toward a two-state solution. In parallel, the BRICS bloc criticized sabotage attacks on Russian railway infrastructure allegedly linked to the Ukraine conflict, while carefully avoiding language that would pressure Moscow to cease military operations. Observers noted the careful diplomatic balancing act, as many BRICS nations maintained strong economic ties with both Russia and Ukraine. Another major issue was climate change. Leaders urged wealthy nations to fulfill their commitments to fund the transition to renewable energy in the developing world. While reaffirming BRICS members' reliance on fossil fuels in the short term, the bloc called for restructuring global climate finance architecture to reflect equity and historical responsibility. AI governance also featured prominently in the declaration, with BRICS supporting a global framework to ensure ethical, transparent, and non-discriminatory development of artificial intelligence technologies. The summit's tone was unapologetically assertive. Several leaders described BRICS as a counterweight to Western economic hegemony and pledged deeper cooperation in trade, energy, and security. Discussions on a potential BRICS digital currency and further steps toward de-dollarization remain ongoing, but were not formalized in the summit outcome. With growing momentum and an expanded membership, BRICS has positioned itself as a leading force for the global South. The Rio Summit marks a critical moment in its evolution, from a loose economic grouping to a more cohesive geopolitical actor. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again, its grace, its plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.